Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this bite-sized webinar. Start to look at Google Analytics and how to make minor changes to your website to get found on Google. This webinar will be about 30 minutes this morning due to combining both of the webinars. Just firstly, a few housekeeping rules. You will automatically be muted on entering the webinar with your camera off. We kindly ask you to use the chat facility at the bottom of the screen for any comments. Today's webinar will be recorded and posted on our Knowledge Hub in the next few days. If you accidentally leave the webinar, you can rejoin using the same link. I'd now like to hand over to Eddy from InSync, who will be taking a lead on today's webinar. Over to you, Eddy.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to these the short session today, two punchy sessions on firstly Google Analytics and then getting found on Google. So these are sort of condensed versions of longer courses that I do, but it's also, so there might be some aspects of this that I don't get to cover, but the aim is just to give you a feel for what Google Analytics is and the basic places you would look. And just as a reminder, you are able to access one-to-one support. So this is with myself or one of my team. Looking at things like looking at your own Google Analytics, getting it installed, trying to get your own website found higher on Google, all those things we can cover on a one-to-one basis. So you just need to message the Becoming team afterwards to set that up. And I have availability at the moment. So let me get straight into Google Analytics then. We'll get past the housekeeping. So basically the reason that Google Analytics is important, or web statistics generally is important, if you're doing any kind of digital marketing, you need to know whether it's working or not. If you've launched a new website, you need to know whether you're getting visitors to it. If you're doing social media, you need to know whether that's getting traffic to your site. If things are looking worse or better than last year, you need to know whether it's because your website isn't performing. So if you're doing digital marketing of any kind whatsoever, and you're not looking at your website stats, then you're essentially flying blind. You don't know which of your efforts are actually working. So web stats will tell you how many people are visiting your site, which pages they're looking at, which is really important. How long people are staying on there. Are they staying for 10 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? In some of you may be interested in what countries they come from, not everyone, what they like and what they don't like, so you can see which page they're leaving on. If you find out which pages people don't like, that turns them off, then you can try and improve those pages and get people to stay on longer. Which of your online marketing methods are working? That's my main thing I like to look at. Is it Facebook or is it Twitter that's working? Am I getting better in the search engines? Are my paid Google advertising campaigns bringing in business? Now, I'm not going to talk through loads of slides. You'll get the slides afterwards, but I'm going to sort of show you a couple more and then we'll actually go into Google Analytics and have a quick look around. So Google Analytics is probably the leading package out there, but it is the leading package out there. It's totally free. You can install it quite easily yourself. If you've built a Wix site, there's instructions on Wix how to do that. Certainly because I know what somebody on here has, but it's quite easy, or you can get a web developer to do it for you. It doesn't take long. If you're unsure whether Google Analytics is on your site already, you can go to this web address here, GA Checker, put your web address in, and then it will tell you whether it's on there or not. It'll come up with a load of green ticks to say if it's on there. And then it's a case of finding out who set it up in the first place. Maybe it was your web developer, and getting access to that account. So this slide here really just explains how you get Google Analytics in the first place. You have to have a Google account. You go to google.co.uk/analytics. You'll enter your web address, and what it will do is give you that tracking code, short piece of code, which then is put on your website on every single page, usually quite a quick thing to do. And from that point forwards, you can't do it retrospectively, you will be able to then track exactly what is happening on your site. So it's not that complicated once you've got it in. And once you've actually got that and taken the trouble to get in there, even if you don't look straight away, that will continuously bring you really useful information going forwards. Now, this is where I'm going to go off into Google Analytics rather than looking at all these slides, but there are a few more slides. You'll get these at the end. So this is Google Analytics, the sort of opening screen you get. I'll move this out of the way. I just encourage you, if you've got a question, drop it in the chat, because I'm just going to witter on for the next half an hour. So if you've got a question, drop it in the chat. This is the opening screen. This is actually an agricultural packaging company. Only certain people let me show their stats on screen. And this gives me sort of general overview of information. But what I like to go straight away is into these menus on the left-hand side. Real time, we'll go to that first, and then overview. This literally just shows me who is on the site right now, of which there's one person on the homepage. Obviously, if the way I use this, it's kind of nerdy really, because you're kind of spying on people, seeing where they're going on your website. But if I've just done an email campaign, or I've got put something on social media, I can see on here exactly what people are clicking on and where they're going to. Obviously, there's one person on it at the moment on a mobile, and they're just sat there on the homepage, so they may not go anywhere else. But it's quite a useful little report. The next main place you go to is Audience Overview. And this is where you see your basic statistics. So this is in the last 7 days, what has happened to this business. And I'm going to change it to the last 30 days, just to give me more information. So we've got the number of users that came to the site, the number of them that were new, hadn't been there before, how many sessions they had, because obviously there's this many users, but some people come back more than once. So you've got the number of sessions per user, number of page views, pages per session. Obviously, the higher these numbers are, the better it is. The average session duration, which is 1 minute 29. And then the bounce rate. And the bounce rate is when people land on your website on any page and then they disappear. So the bounce rate needs to be as low as possible. So 70% is quite high. The average is actually 50%. So 50% of people will land on your website and then disappear. That's quite normal. So anything lower than 50% is good. Everything else you need to get bigger, the bounce rate needs to get lower. So even if you looked at nothing else, you should be monitoring this to see how many visitors you're getting and how they're doing on your site. Now you can compare to the past. So if you've done some changes, maybe you've come on a course and you've made some tweaks to your website, maybe you've worked with me on a one-to-one and we've made some changes, you can go on here and look and see whether it's made a difference. Now red is bad, okay, red is negative. Now, which looks like this company's not doing very well. However, that's month on month. They do a lot of seasonal type stuff. So what you can also do is compare it to the previous year. Obviously, you have to have had your stats on there for a long period of time to do that. So here you can see it's actually not as bad year on year, season on season, which obviously a lot of you are going to obviously be going to have seasonal traffic. Some bits are slightly worse, other bits are better. So it's broadly the same. So that's comparing month on month, year on year. So on the left-hand side, there's so many things you can look at, and bear in mind this is a brief course today, so I'm trying to get you familiar with the concept rather than actually doing it in detail. You can look at the geo, in other words, whereabouts in the world are your visitors coming from. Obviously the key one there is United Kingdom. This is all in the last month. And you can see every bit of data in a chart here as well. I don't tend to look at that too much unless I'm really working on an international business. You can look at whether people are on a mobile or not. So you've got mobile, desktop or tablet. And then you can see, let me just zoom in a little bit so you can't see the money too easily. You can see basically how many people bounce who are on a mobile and what the bounce rate is, whether it's more than a desktop. On a tablet, what's the bounce rate? And ultimately, you can see if you do sell anything, how many transactions you're getting from different sources of traffic, different platforms. Zoom out again. My favorite place of all to go on to Google Analytics is acquisition, all traffic, channels. If I'm working with a client or if I sit down with any of you and you've got analytics on there, that's the first place I'm going, because that will tell me a lot about your business and what you're doing marketing wise. This will tell me where your traffic's coming from. Paid search like Google ads, Bing ads. Organic search is your natural organic free search when people type onto Google. Direct usually has a bit of social in there and also has a bit of organic search. It's a bit of a mismatch there. That's kind of when, it also could be when people have got a bookmark as well and they click from their bookmarks. Social media, referrals from other websites. Other could be various things that are just miscategorized. display advertising on Google, and email. Now, this company doesn't really do email. So if you're using MailChimp and you've linked MailChimp with your Google Analytics correctly, you would see the impact of that within here. And any of these you can click into, like I can click into social and say, okay, where are those visits coming from? Is it Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter? And going a bit deeper than that, as deep as I can in the time that I've got here, you can also look at, depending on the type of marketing you're doing, how many sales you're getting. If you don't sell online, you can measure how many times the inquiry form is filled in. But I start to get to see then, of all the different activities, and I could go to individual campaigns, advertising campaigns, which one is getting me sales, or which one is getting me contact forms that are filled in. So I've got a real good way of measuring exactly what is happening on the website. Really, really valuable. And as I said, you can measure Google Ads if you want to, or individual campaigns. Final place really to look at into any detail is behavior, site content, all pages. So if you're getting onto Google Analytics yourself and you haven't really had a look at it before, the thing to do is just understand how you navigate and click and try different ones. I tend to go for the ones I've shown you today because they give me the most information. Now, this tells me which pages are being viewed, not just which ones are being landed on first, which ones are being viewed overall. And I can change this to say I want to have 100 pages being viewed, so rather than just the first 10. So I get to see every single page on the site and then see what people are doing when they get on there. So if I look at this corrugated cardboard sheet board, I can just random. I can see how many times the page was viewed. I can see how long people are spending on that page. And then I can also see, if I just go up a bit, I can see the bounce rate and also see the exit rate, those two columns there. Now the exit rate is when people are leaving the page. They're leaving the website on this page. So for example, when people are getting to this one here, this pneumatic can crusher, what's not to like, I don't know, then they are 77% of people are leaving on that page. So you could look at that and say, why are people leaving? Have a look at the page. Is there something about it? Is the image wrong? Could we be putting more information about it? Could we have a review from a client saying how brilliant it is? I'm sure I know none of you do can crushers, but you get the feeling. You get the idea. You can basically go on there, look at any page and try and understand it. You can even go and look at a page, like if I go to this baler twine page and examine what's happened on that particular page over the time, but also, and a lot of people don't go this deep, but I am, the navigation summary. In other words, where did people come from before they got to this page and where did they go next? So you start to understand the flow of your visitors around your website. Really powerful. If ever you find a report that you think, oh, I'd like to have that on a regular basis, or I can't remember which reports to go to, what you can do is share it, which is a bit of a weird way of putting it, but you share it by emailing it to yourself. So you can say, I'm going to have it every month on a regular basis. You can export it to a PDF, or just if you save it, it'll actually put it on the left-hand side so you can get back to it in the future. So it kind of makes it easy for you. One final tip on Google Analytics, and I've had no questions on it so far, so I'm hoping I'm making total sense, or everyone's left or everyone's asleep. There's an app for Google Analytics, which is really good. I'm going to show you really quickly before I move on to the next subject. And I tend to actually look at this more. I think you might have logged me out. Bear with me, it's worth showing you. This is the same business as I'm seeing. You can't quite, hopefully you can see that. Probably not going to show you, but basically that is the same company. Now, you know, you've got your phone and you're looking through your social media and your emails and your news and whatever. Why not also click on your Google Analytics to see how your website is doing? So, because people tend to forget and they don't check it for months. So have the app on your phone. It's really worth doing. So that's sort of an introduction to getting started with it. It's basically get it installed and have a browse around. And I'm not going to go through those particular slides, but you'll get it afterwards. Again, any questions, I'll drop back to it. So if you do got it, just drop it. If you do have any, just drop it into the chat. So moving on to getting found on Google, which incidentally, you would measure your success of doing that by looking at your Google Analytics, not by just typing in your business name on Google and saying, oh, look, we're near the top. You would actually look at your statistics on Google Analytics and say, right, our organic search is going up. We're getting more and more visits from Google, from Bing and whatever. So it must be working. Now, I've been doing search engine optimization for the last 20 years on various different sites. I'm self-taught, but we do this commercially as a company. So we all have a methodology on how we actually get people at the search engines that works. I'm going to try and give you like a 13, 14 minute simplified version of this, which is more than possible. If anyone wants to drop their website in the chat, that would be helpful, because I'm just going to pull a couple up at random and just point things out. The reason why it's good to get found on Google is because it's a good source of traffic. When we look at visitors to a website and where they've come from, there is a different likelihood of them actually converting or doing what you want them to do on your website. And usually social media is the worst performing source of traffic, and email and organic search, getting on Google, is one of the best. And when I'm looking for any of your types of businesses, not that I know exactly what you are, social media may work in some circumstances, but ultimately I'm going to be looking and searching for your product and service. And when I do that, I'm going to be doing that on Google. And I put here the gift that keeps on giving. In other words, if you do a bit of search engine optimization, it's probably the most cost-effective use of your time or money if you pay somebody to do it, because once you've got the basic ingredients in place, the words in place, it will keep bringing customers to you. Most of your new customers are going to come from searches, people looking for you, people looking for your product and service, not looking for you. And the reason why you need to try and get higher up is because most people just don't go beyond the first page. I think it's 93% of people do not go past page 1 on their search. So this is my simple thing. Imagine we lost the internet in 30 seconds time. This is my simple tip for SEO. Write more about what you do. So when I look at people's websites, generally on the one-to-ones, usually I find that they're not, they might have a nice picture. Take wedding flowers, for example, just a previous client. And they might have a great picture of somebody with a bouquet at a wedding, and it looks nice. And over the image, they've got a script saying wedding flowers. But when I look through the text, there's the words wedding and flowers were not actually mentioned in the text. And the trouble is we tend to think that the pictures are so obvious we don't need to keep talking about it, and we know what we do. So you should write more about what you do, talk about it more often, to the extent where it feels uncomfortable. In other words, you're reading through your text and you're thinking, well, that sounds a bit odd. I'm saying plant too often, or whatever it is, or apple tree. When you're reading it, you feel uncomfortable. That is usually the point when it's spot on. People don't read the text. Search engines read the text. People read the pictures or click on the pictures. They want to navigate and do what they want to do. They're not going to read all the fluff. So write more about what you do. That's just in case you have to go. I could do with a web address. So if anyone's going to be brave enough to give me their web address, that'd be really good. I'm going to give 30 seconds, then I'm just going to pick somebody else's so you won't get the detailed advice. I won't be nasty. So I've got one there. So I'm going to use that. Do you need to link Google Analytics to MailChimp separately once it's set up on the website? Is it possible to do yourself? So basically what you need to do, on MailChimp, there is a settings. You click on your name of your name at the top right hand corner, and then there's integrations. So you go settings, integrations, and one of them is Google. And you click on that and it will make you log into your Google account if you're not already, and that will link it up with your Google Analytics. And that's all you have to do. And once you've done that, every time you send an email, it'll link up correctly. So I've got loads of slides here that I'm going to show that you'll get, okay? But I'm going to, instead of going through those slides, I'm just going to do it live and talk you through it. It's just the way I prefer to do it. So I've got 2 web addresses. And I know, Lisa, we've been working together on things. I need to give you a critique on your site, but well done for getting one done yourself anyway. And I will get back to you. So here's a bit of an introduction to SEO. So the key places where you'd put your words, your most important words. So let's say you wanted to be found for pick your own pumpkins, okay? The key places where you put that was here, the title tag. And if I look at this one, so you'd have to say on here, you'd have to say, what are the words I want people to find me for? What are people searching for to find me? And then the title tag here is the key place to put it. And what people tend to do is put their business name in that section. This is called the meta title. It can be 70 words, 70 characters long, not words. And that's one of the most important things to put on there, to include your words you want to be found for. I'll talk about keyword research in a minute. The other thing, and I'm going to right click and view page source here in the hopes that I might see it. So don't worry if this looks gobbledygook. And I can't see it on there, but there's another thing called a meta description, which is basically an extended version, maybe 20 words, expanding on what you do into a sort of a fluffy sentence. Those are the two sort of hidden places where you'd put your words. Now, I'm going to show you the places in a minute, but what you need to do, the basic places you should put your words, but those are the two key places. And they also show up, I'm going to show you this now, Aberystwyth with milk. I haven't lost it, Aberystwyth Milk Company, okay? Now, when I touch in Aberystwyth Milk Company and I turn off my blur, disable the blacklist, what you can see here is my own website comes up with Aberystwyth Milk Company and Milk Company. And the reason for this is because we did some branding for a company, for an Aberystwyth Milk Company who's no longer trading. But during lockdown, we had hundreds of visits a week to this site for people looking for milk deliveries in Aberystwyth. And that's mainly because this is our title tag, and this is the first sentence on the page, and this is the web address for the site. So as a pure illustration of just by including your words in those key sections, and it's different how you do it on, depends on how your website was built, including those will literally affect where you appear in the search. Now, you should do your keyword research, obviously, and there's two places to look. I've put them in the presentation. One is Moz, which is quite simple to do. It's called moz.com. The link, as I said, is there. But it's not quite as accurate as doing like Google Keyword Planner. So Google Keyword Planner, and I'm going to do this rather quickly in the time that I've got, is that you have to sign up for a Google advertising account. You have to put your credit card details and actually pretend that you're going to run an advertising campaign on Google. But when you do that, it gives you access to this keyword planner, which means I can go in here and put some ideas of the things that people want to be found for. Pick your own, let me just pick your own. I tend to, when we do one-to-ones, I tend to do more detailed research. So I'm just doing a quick example here. Obviously it's seasonal, but then I can look at this and say, what words are people using? Pick your own pumpkin, that's 2,900 searches. Pick your own pumpkin patch, near me is used a lot. People are putting brand names in there. So it's quite a simple one, but there might be other things you're doing in your business that you want to do research on as well. So the idea is that you go in here, you do your research and you come up with 6 or 8 words for every page that you do. Maybe you're doing jams and chutneys. So you go in here and say, are people looking for jams or are they looking for preserves? Maybe, you know, if you're using your produce to make those afterwards. And then you adjust the words you're going to use accordingly. So when you do keyword research and you put things on here, it has to be based on, or it should be based on, actual research, not what you think it is. And I see people all the time optimizing or putting the words on that they think they sell, that they do sell, but actually people are searching for something else. So the research is a really important part to do. And you can do that on Google Keyword Planner or on moz.com. Again, both in the presentation. The next place search engines would look then when they go onto a site is the heading text. And this is probably heading text. I'm saying probably because heading text is bolder and bigger. This is heading text. Okay, so it's quite good. But you might want to have patch on the end of it if that's what people are looking for. And on this one here, this is your heading text. So, and this is where there's a balance between how you want your website to look and what people are searching for. So you kind of have to pick some aspects of it, like this, for example, and say, how can I get my words in there that I want people to be found for, to people to search for? And that goes for every single page. So even if you're going to, I don't know, Swiss Garden, you go in here, then this is your heading text. This is your heading text. So you go through every single page and you change the title, description, and this heading text. Then the first sentence on your page, you take the 6 to 8 words you've sort of come up with for that page and you put them here, or as top as you can. Maybe you can't, maybe you need to fluff them out with a few ands and buts and whatever in there to make it make sense, but that's where you put them, in the first sentence. So on here, this is again heading text. So it's this sort of thing, this sort of thing. They're there for your first sentence. And then you repeat it again on the page another 4 or 5 times. And to the extent where it feels a little bit too much, as I said earlier. So title, description, heading, first sentence, and then repeat it 4 or 5 times. You can do a check. I use Control F on my browser. And I'm going pick your own. Hopefully you can just about see that. So I can see pick your own is mentioned 3 times on the page. So I might say that's probably not enough. It looks obvious, pumpkins on there a lot, but you need to put pick your own a few more times in there. But Control F helps you just look at your website quickly and see how many times am I using that word. Other things you can do potentially, and it depends on your site, not all can do it, I'm not sure Wix can do it, but if you've got an image, for example, like this one, I'm going to open this in a new tab and have a look at it. So that says daffodil 184 by 300, the size of the image. You can rename your images to be the words you want to be found for. You can even put the alt text, so when you hover a mouse over an image, the text that comes out describes that image in a way using the words that you want to be found for. And you have to go through every single page doing that. If you link to something within a page, try and put those words within that you want to be found for within that link. You're trying to make the page as rich as possible towards the words you want to be found for. The only other thing, and that I made it sound quite simple, hopefully, do your research and then put it in those certain places, is to get more links coming into you. If you don't have many links coming into you, then you're going to struggle to do very well in search engines, especially if it's a brand new site. So you need to go out and approach people and say, will you link to us if we link to you? So you need a links page on your website, and then you go out there and just approach people. There are tools you can use to help you do that. So there's one here, Backlink Watch. Again, this is in your presentation, where I can put a web address in. Let me just do this really quickly. And I'm conscious this is going to be on a video afterwards, so I'm just going to find any pumpkin patch. There we go. And what I'm doing is looking at competitors and seeing what they're doing. So I can get any web address of a competitor, go to this little backlink checker called Backlink Watch, and put their web address in. I'm not a robot. Careful where you click. It's a very spammy site. And this should come back and tell me if it actually works. It is doing something at the top. That will come back and tell me who they've got linking to them. You can check your own site, see who's linking to you. It's spinning away at the top at the moment, so it may not work in the duration of this. Please enter the captcha. I wasn't aware there was a captcha. Let me try one more time. So I mean about it being very spammy. There are others out there as well, but there we go. So it's coming up and it's saying, these are the different things you need to visit, best places in the UK. Well, that's an interesting one. So this will come through and give you ideas to build links. And you can go back and put other websites in there as well. So don't neglect trying to get links coming in. This one hasn't got many, but it gives you ideas. So that's probably all I've got time for in terms of this, these 2 short webinars. Hopefully you will have an idea on a basic level, find the words people are searching for and use them more than you feel comfortable doing is the basic tip. But there are those key places where you should put them: the title, the heading, the first sentence, and rename your images, and just talk about it as much as you can. I'll take any questions if anyone's got one quickly.
Eddie,
yeah.
Sorry, Eddie, there's one from Chris Charters just before Lisa Powell on the chat. Contact details for advice on setting up export details, please.
Yeah, that's one I don't have any information on that. That's why I was hoping you might be able to provide that one, or maybe we'll get back to Chris afterwards.
Okay,
I don't have any contact details for that at all. But I'm sure there's initiatives to support that.
Lovely. Okay, we'll look into that. Well, anyone got any more questions for Eddie? Well, thanks very much, Eddie, for a very informative webinar covering a lot of information in a short space of time. Can I thank you all for attending the webinar today? As I've mentioned in the chat, all our details are there, contact details should you wish to get in touch with anyone from Tyfu Cymru. When you leave today's webinar, there will be a short evaluation form for you to complete, and we would really appreciate it if you could spare a couple of minutes to let us know your thoughts and to suggest future topics. Thanks again for attending.